Bex, guess what I've been doing?
What have you been doing, Henry?
We're playing a new game.
Ooh.
Yeah, Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, which is exactly why you clicked on this video. But it's a lot of fun. Been playing it on Xbox, and we're going to talk about it today, what my experience has been with the game. I've had a little bit of time with it now, and we actually asked you guys in the community section on our YouTube channel what you want to know about it. So we picked out a few of those that we can answer. I'm going to go through those later in the video, so keep watching to see that. Looking forward to chatting about this game. First new game of the year, basically. It's always fun.
Let's hear about it.
Yeah.
Firstly, how long have you been playing it for?
Little under 10 hours now. From what I know, this game's around about the 20-hour mark if you're just playing like the main quests. But there's also some side quests involved too, so you could actually get a meaty chunk of time playing it, which is cool.
Yeah.
I think maybe some people were expecting it to be on the shorter end, but
yeah,
there's also a bit of replayability in the fact that, like I said, this game's kind of difficult. The combat is challenging. The puzzles do make you think. A lot of them are to do with like movement-based stuff, as well as manipulating the environment around you to get to from point A to point B.
Yeah.
But I think that the fact that there's so many different difficulty options, which they label under their accessibility options, means that there's a lot of replayability for people that maybe want to push themselves into harder difficulty as well. So yeah, I've played about just under 10 hours. I think I'm on the 4th main mission out of about 9, I think there are. Right. So about halfway through the game at this point.
So you've been like dabbling with main stuff, but also kind of exploring like side quests and stuff.
Yeah, so you do meet a bunch of other quest givers that will give you different tasks to do. Some of them are relating to finding certain collectibles out there, or they have certain enemies they want you to kill, which adds in some more combat challenge, which is great. But the majority of your game is going to be spent exploring Mount Cuff and trying to find the Prince of Persia. Yeah.
Oh, you're finding the prince.
We're not playing as the prince. So we actually play as a character called Sargon. He's part of this. You can almost think of him as like a collection of superheroes.
Yeah.
Called the Immortals, and he's basically the guy that wields 2 swords.
Yeah.
Every cool team has a guy that has 2 swords. Every cool team has a giant dude who's like really burly and full of himself and a bit arrogant and has a massive weapon and thinks everyone's a weakling. Every cool team has like a slightly more ninja-esque person on it. Well, this game's no different. It's the same.
Yeah.
But that cast of characters are really fun because they offer up different perspectives on what it means to be like something powerful, or what it means to protect something you believe in. So although this is a game focused on combat and traversal and exploration, the underlying story is actually quite interesting to learn about, and it also delves into Persian mythology. The combat is really fluid. As you'd expect with Prince of Persia, it's a game that has a lot of, I would say, heritage in people remember it, Sands of Time, etc., that they were very acrobatic and fluid, and movement is important, but so is like satisfying combat, and they've definitely kept that as a strong theme in the mechanics of the game. You can pull off some really incredible combos, both aerial combos, ground combos. There are actually amulets that you can pick up and find that even enhance that combat too. That's before you even get into the abilities that you learn through like basically superpowers, which is cool. There's a lot of enemies in the game as well. Some of them are more like hand-to-hand combat. Some of them use shields as well that they'll actually protect themselves. Some of them are just as acrobatic as you are, and they will dip across the screen. Some of them can teleport. I mean,
oh my gosh.
There's a huge variety of them across all the different biomes in the game, and there's quite a few to explore. So it's a Metroidvania game. If you don't know what that is, I know you know what that is, but if you don't know what that is, it basically means that your progress throughout the entire map, which seems quite large, is locked behind story moments. At certain moments in the story, you will learn a new ability or discover something new about Sargon that helps him get there. So it might just be the fact that you now have a bow. You've picked up this bow and you're like, cool, I found a bow. Now I know I can access this puzzle, which needs me to shoot something far away so that I can access a platform. So it feels really well paced in that regard.
Nice.
There was one moment where I was exploring an area because I was a little bit stuck. I was like, I don't know where to go. It was because I was overthinking a puzzle. I thought I couldn't do it, but it turns out I could. So I went off and just explored a bit and found a new biome that was called the Depths. Horrible biome in that it's really difficult there, because I think as someone who enjoys Souls games, you'll appreciate the fact that when you find a biome that's like poison theme,
oh my gosh, this one,
straight away you get like flashbacks to how difficult poison areas can be, and that was the case with this. And I thought, there's no way I'm supposed to go here already. This is way too tough. So I dipped back out of there, rethought the puzzles a bit, managed to unlock what I was supposed to do, follow through there, and yeah, was back on the golden path, I suppose.
Nice. Henry, like you mentioned, our community, you lot watching, have had some questions about the new Prince of Persia game.
What do you want to know?
What do you want to know? Well, I've got a question here from Kim Chi Chi, who said, can you jump like high?
Yeah. Yes and no. Like, that's all relative. You can jump, and at first you think, this is great, I can jump, I can bounce off walls. The longer you hold down A, the higher you can jump, which is a pretty standard mechanic in platformers at this point. But it feels like you're jumping higher than a superhuman, or jumping higher than a human normally could, because Sargon's an immortal. He's not actually immortal, that's just like the name of their club. They're the immortals, so they just think they're pretty cool. But what gets enhanced throughout the game is that, yeah, you pick up these new powers and abilities. So the powers that you unlock, they're, again, like I said, it's Metroidvania, so they're sort of locked behind the story progress, but they're called the Simurgh powers, which are powers that you're gifted by the god of time, basically. You find these feathers throughout the story. Once you pick them up, you learn a new ability. And some of them are, well, the ones that I've encountered so far have all been movement-based, one of which allows you to do an air dash. So again, air dashing in like platformers and combat platformers, it's not revolutionary, but the way they implement it in this game is much more than just dipping about the place. It's also to help you solve puzzles, to help you in combat, to help you recover if you get hit. You get to then, you have a small window where you can dash to just pick yourself back up again, get back in the fight quicker. They're giving you all these tools to just help you fight better, fight faster, fight tougher enemies, because the enemies do get more and more difficult the further you go. But yeah, the traversal's a key part of this game. But yeah, you can jump pretty high. You can jump higher than I can in real life, so that's good enough.
I've got another question here from Steven, who's asking, does it run at 60 FPS on the Series X?
Thanks, Stephen. It does, but it also runs at 60 FPS on Series S at 1440p, which is really cool. On Series X, you can play at 4K 60, but Ubisoft have told us that there will be a day one patch to unlock 120 FPS mode as well. So that's going to be so useful for combat, because like I was saying, there are sometimes tight windows where you have an opportunity to parry or to fit in an extra attack. And having higher frame rate really helps communicate those decisions better to you, whether or not you actually have the frames to be able to make that call. It's something you often see in like fighting games like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, is people talk about like frame times. There's almost an element of that precision to this game. And so having an 120 FPS mode is going to be great when that drops. I've not been able to try it myself yet because, like I said, it's a day one patch. So it's not out at the time of this video. By the time you guys get to play it, you will be able to play it at 120 FPS on Series X. Not to mention that it's 4K 120. So the game is gorgeous. I mean, all the footage we've shown you, there's splashes of color everywhere. It's got a really distinctive style to it. I'm glad they went in that direction, because we have enough games that have gone for like photorealism. This is a game where you are literally controlling someone in Persian era who can manipulate time and can do incredible acrobatic like bursts of movement. And so having a slightly more, I don't want to say cartoony, but it's almost verging on cell shaded, but not quite. It's a 2.5D type art style, which is cool, which allows for these great zoom in moments when you execute some specific moves or abilities, as well as it allows the cutscenes to just really shine. So it helps remind you that although this is a side-scrolling platformer, you only move in, north, east, west, and south directions. It helps remind you that this is like a living, breathing world, despite all of that. So yeah, you are moving in a straight line, but the world is 3D. It can pan out whenever it wants to. I feel like they've taken a lot of inspiration from like anime fights, because some of the zoom-ins have these incredible like flashes of color and like where it goes like almost monochrome. Huge like blinding lights, and it's paired with great audio design in terms of the parry noise, where you can just hear the like clash of swords against whatever else your enemy's using, and it comes together really well. It's an absolutely gorgeous game to look at. The colors are great, the visual style is great, and it plays smooth and at 4K on Series X, which is gorgeous.
I've got a question here from Tino Brown, who's asked, how's the controller feedback? Do you feel it when you land hits? Does it feel good then as well? Yeah,
that's definitely an important part of having satisfying combat, and they do have that in Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. So when you're executing attacks or doing jumps or like landing, you can feel like some vibration and you can get some feedback from that. And the more intense the combat, the like stronger that vibration effect is. So if you were to just swing your swords, you'd feel like a bit of a buzz. But if you were to parry someone or connect with someone, then it's much more intense and violent feedback, which is really cool. It really does amp up the immersion that you get. So I understand why you asked that. It is so important to have that feedback when you're executing moves.
Nothing better than feeling a perfect parry.
Nothing better. It is a tough game, like I was saying, but we did mention earlier that there are some accessibility options and different difficulty settings you can choose at the start of the game. The one that I thought was most impressive was custom. So they've added a custom difficulty setting where you actually get to dial in exactly at every point of opportunity how difficult or what sort of assistance you might need for that difficulty option. So there are ways that you can increase the parry window. There are ways you can reduce the amount of damage you take. There are some that are to do with the puzzles as well. So you can have them auto-complete puzzles for you if you're just not into that sort of the game. You just want to explore stuff and just run around and find whatever you want. You can totally change all of that. And as far as I'm aware, it doesn't affect your progress either. So there's no punishment for needing to tune the game to the way that you enjoy it, which I think is a great move. But it also offers you the opportunity to make it even more punishing if that's the type of game that you're really into. If you love your really difficult platforming fighting games, then there is a way to make the Prince of Persia Lost Crown exactly the way you like it. So it's a game for everybody.
You've spoken a wee bit about like abilities that Sargon can do and unlock as you go along as well. Do you want to describe to me your favorite ones maybe that you've unlocked and what those other ones are like?
There's one that you unlock pretty early on called Barman's Breath. Not a barman. I think it's Barman. I think they're a Persian god. I don't know for sure.
Is it stinky?
Well, it's stinky enough that when you do it, there's this cool animation. It zooms in, you're like charging up your fist, and then you slam the ground. And it's part of this collection of abilities called Athra Surges, where the sort of power is flowing through you, and you're able to execute it. What this ability does is it slams the ground, pushes all these enemies away from you, and then that place that you struck becomes like a healing pool. So in like a pinch where you're like outmatched or just outnumbered by a bunch of enemies and you need a bit of breathing room, that's a great way to just give yourself some respite so you can recompose yourself, figure out a plan. Do you need to run or do you maybe need to pick people off one by one? Just gives you a bit of a moment to reconfigure, recalibrate what you're going to do next. So that's a really useful one to use. I just unlocked one called Arash's Ray, which is a bow ability. And this one kind of freezes time and it gives you a moment to just perfectly aim where you want to shoot the arrow. But it's not just a normal arrow, obviously it's imbued with the power of God, so it's enormous and it just fills the screen and just blasts enemies away, which is great.
Henry, talk to me about Mount Gaff, because that sounds like a laugh.
Mount Calf is large. It's a large map, but fortunately you're not going to have to run through it every single time on a single life. There are respawns, which in-game they are the whack-whack trees, which is a fun thing to say. There are areas that you can use for fast travel that you'll unlock at some point in the game. So when you're perhaps doing side quests and you're just mopping up a few things here or there, or you think you've just unlocked an ability that will help you access somewhere that you previously couldn't, you'll be able to use the fast travel points to zip around the map at your own leisure. In other games, I tend to sometimes forget that there's cool stuff waiting for me that I saw 5 hours ago. In this game, they've got a really handy feature where you can pin locations on your map with an actual screenshot as well. So when you pin something, it'll flash up with a little picture of exactly that moment when you were there, which is a nice visual reminder of like, oh, there was a chest up there. I couldn't reach it before. Maybe it's because I need like a new ability. Or maybe it's because, I don't know, there's a boss further down the way and I need to kill him first before I can get back up around. For whatever reason it is, you could take that screenshot and it'll pin it on your map. And then 5 hours later, you'll go around and look at all your pins like, oh, what was I missing over there? Oh yeah, it's that chest. I think I know how to get there now. So that's just a really nice visual aid for players to get the absolute most out of the map that they can. And I think it's a really cool feature that they added in that they probably didn't need to, but it's really great to have.
Wrap up for me in a couple of sentences, your favorite part so far of playing Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown.
I'm the kind of gamer that loves the big boss fights. It's something I said about games like Elden Ring, in that I kind of almost wish they were just corridors of boss battles. The first major boss battle in the game is against this creature called Jahandar, who is this kind of big like mix of a lion with almost like a barbed pointy tail that's got poison dipped in it. The boss fight was great fun. A, because the visuals were really cool, the fact you're fighting this enormous screen-filling beast, but B, the abilities that it had. Like you'd expect with most boss battles, there are like phases to it, I suppose. They really felt like they evolved through the fight. So it kind of gives you this ebb and flow dynamic where the boss kind of realizes that maybe they're on the back foot. So they step up their game a bit to say, all right, you're pretty tough. How about one of these? What do you think of this? So it had this barbed poison tail that I mentioned. And there's a moment where it sort of aims and it hits it at you. And in the first half of the fight, it's pretty easy to dodge. But as the fight goes on, it starts casting these other spells and then also doing that barbed poison tail ability. But now it also waits a bit longer once it's hit and erupts again from the ground and the big pool of poison around you. So it really adds to that dynamic nature of the fight and makes it all the more rewarding when you actually eventually get the kill. So that was a really cool moment in the game. And I'm looking forward to playing a bit more of it to see more of those big set-piece boss battles, because I think if that's the way it starts, there must be some really juicy ones later on down the line. So yeah, really excited about that.
Heck yeah.
There are a bunch of other games coming up this year that we will be able to play a bit early. So if there are some specific ones you want to know about, let us know the game and let us know what you want to know about it in the comments. Like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our future videos, whether it's previews, whether it's tips for your Xbox. We've got all of those on our channel right here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.